Hello, my name is Mackenzie. Welcome to the Disillusioned. This is definitely the most interesting timeline. I have been seeking for quite a while, and I've come into contact with some fundamental things that change what it means to be a human being. It seems as though we are part of a vastly intricate and energetic system. And this seems to be the most interesting timeline. I've been on a bit of a journey my entire life trying to find where I fit into this ecosystem, this society, civilization. I have always had a lot of issues finding my place and properly expressing myself, and I've had a lot of suffering because of it. In the past few years, I've found that if I can find purpose for my suffering, that I can change my material reality to reflect my desires, the things I'm devoted to. And I was seeking purpose. I believe I found it. I came to understand that my cosmic purpose is to open the consciousness of those around me. It seems as though we are in the middle of changing our seasons on a cosmic level, and this changes our consciousness. It gives us access to different realms of consciousness, and it seems as though it's something old, something new, and something highly exotic. There are different thought forms that transcend language. There are higher frequency thought forms. There are intricate problems for us to solve, patterns for us to discover. There are the cosmic breadcrumbs that allow us to do the spiritual work inside of our body. It seems as though the isms have been created in order to deny us access to greater realms of consciousness, whether it's racism, theologism, or capitalism. They all have the same function: to get us to suffer with no purpose. And today I wanted to talk about my own experience and see if anybody else had something similar. I had been working subconsciously through some of the spiritual aspects of my life. I was unknowing initially, and it caused a lot of struggle and frustration and suffering for me. It caused impulsiveness, compulsiveness. I was bored easily. I had trouble with academic studies, and I started from Ovid Metamorphosis. Someone gave it to me, and it was notated very nicely, and I didn't get the full meaning of it then, but as I've gone along, that was almost 15 years ago, as I've gone along, I've started coming across similar stories, similar ideologies, similar thought forms that seem to suggest there's a reality in which the material is, and a reality in which all else is. It is very interesting to me that through antiquity they've documented cosmic cycles as iterations of 360 or 720 or 1440. These numbers and ages transcend each ideology because they represent a truer reality. And I had been getting dreams for quite a while where I was getting representations of my reality until I was required to make a free will decision. And I began to remember that this life is a continuity, and that we carry the information of our ancestors with us. 17,642 people is what it makes one. and the information and water we get during our gestation period provides us a direct route to our ancestral lineage. So I had been trying to figure out how to document some of the things that were happening to me. I was starting to recognize number patterns, and things were expressing themselves, leading me down paths and seemingly opening doors that I didn't even know were there. And one of these dreams a few months ago, I had what I would call a graduation ceremony. All of my ancestors were there. There was a high table in gold and ivory, and I stood before a group of my peers and my ancestors to see if I had remembered. And as soon as it was discovered that I remembered, I was given an object. It was a very odd object. It was simultaneously a seahorse, a harp, a horn. It was golden and shimmering and looked pleased to be in my presence. And it had wings for ears, and it was changing every time I looked at it, and it was showing me more and more complex dimensions of itself and layers, and it was revealing all of these different modalities that it could be used for. And it seemed as though it was telling me it was the culmination of tools that I received from my curriculum of suffering. All of my ancestors were there. They were very proud of me. I awoke and remembered identically my dream. It's the most clear dream I've ever had. And my wife had come to me and said that she had a dream where we were in a cave in Greece or Rome or some Mediterranean country, and we had been doing a ceremony with olive oil and leaves, and that all of my family was there, and they were proud of me and proud of us. And since then, it's been a really interesting time. Things have become more clear. Things that were meant to remain in my path have remained. The things that were meant to fall away have fallen away. I have clarity. I get guidance. I've had the opportunity to have over 10,000 conversations with total strangers discussing some of these things. And I don't know if anybody has had a similar experience. I know that I talked to a gentleman just the other day that said that he had something very similar happen to him. And the path on which I took, I would not wish upon anybody else, but I'm glad that I took it. It has shown me that we are more than we've been led on, that there are things that are taken from us and hidden from us that prevent us from doing the things that we think we are capable of doing only when we die. But ancient cultures and civilizations for the longest time have sought to die before they die, to remember that it is not a singular event, this life we call material reality. It is a continuity, and the culmination of all of our suffering through our ancestral lineage and the connotation of the free will we can express can be changed very shortly just by dealing with and accounting for the things in your life that have happened and seeking to release attachment from things that you perceive to be hurting you, or seeking to forgive those that have come against you. Or the whole idea is choosing love and compassion over envy and jealousy and hate. It's choosing light over dark. It is allowing your free will to be expressed in a positively biased manner instead of a negatively biased one. And the things that you're suffering for change that connotation. They allowed light or dark into your consciousness. So what we call rock bottom is true expression of negatively biased free will. No matter what decision you make, it's going to be bad. If you're suffering for things that have a purpose, at some point, the inverse is possible. You can manifest heaven on earth. And this is very important for our species. It fundamentally changes what it means to be a human being. We cast ourselves into material form in order to experience other, to experience material reality and bring it back. And there have been 6 Christed ones, or people who have held higher forms of consciousness inside their bodies. They did not wish to be worshipped or followed. They only simply wished to free our species. The materialistic intent is what corrupted that process. And right now is a very important time. We just completed a 25,960-year process. It is what you would call the Great Year. It's a full rotation around Sagittarius 1A. See, there's a part of physics that keeps us on this planet and keeps us coming back so that we can continue providing material security to people who don't deserve it. They've been doing it for generations. They've been planning things and changing things and hiding history and denying our divine ability. They have caused us to forget intentionally for materialistic intent. And it is very important right now that we remember, because we're being given a choice. Information is what provides us a unified field theory for physics. It is the bridge from the quantum realm to the material realm. It is how we are capable of co-creating our reality to be heaven or hell. The way that you treat people, the way that you act, the integrity you carry with yourself is how your free will is expressed, either good or bad, light or dark, probably not good or bad. The attachment to materiality is the friction that allows us to make these conscious choices, to change our lower density and vibration emotions like envy and jealousy and hatred and anger and frustration and lack into higher frequencies. And by changing the density of those thoughts, you're performing alchemy. You're turning lead into gold. It is not an exterior process, it is an interior one. And information is what quantum states like charms and bits and bosons, they're more like waveforms, are organized with. It is the programming language of the universe. It allows for us to be cast into material form, because it is what stratifies the material plane. In the singularity of a black hole, antimatter and matter collide, and the only thing that escapes is information. Hawking saw it first with Hawking radiation, and then postulated that this could be correlated to the Einsteinian ring, and his thesis with Strominger and Murray corroborated this by giving the condition 12J, that the information could be saved on the Einsteinian ring and re-radiated, it would be dark energy and dark matter. The four forces we're used to observing on the light side, we observe on the anti-material side, or the information side. This is what gives rise to consciousness. That is why the divine thing is not the sacrament. It is the transfer of information and water from our mothers. We develop as a single row of cells until the 49th day, upon which our pituitary gland develops, and we become male or female, and we start developing as a mirror. The Vedics knew this already. It appears they were talking about going to the in-between for 48 days, and you would be cast into your material form upon the 49th. You choose your satsana. You choose your curriculum, your karma. It's one that we agree to, whether it's Vedic or Christian or Buddhist or Hindu. These thoughts and ideas transcend language. In fact, language only serves to make them more dense and harder to digest. It's more of a being able to feel than being able to learn about. And it starts with remembering. Remembering what we have agreed to, and finding alignment with our consciousness and our soul. Finding purpose for our suffering, so that we can bring light into ourselves instead of corrupting forces of darkness. This civilization has materialist intent stratified through most major structures, whether it's our academic structure, geopolitical structure, our theological structure. Manly P. Hall and Terence McKenna and Carl Jung have all postulated similar theses, that the culture gives the context to the spiritual work. Whether or not we can do these types of things, whether or not we can bring heaven to earth. As co-creators, we have a conscious decision. We can either stay in this reality, or we can try to bring higher dimensions of consciousness into our body. And I believe that's the entire reason we are cast into material form. We are to experience other. We are to experience differences. We are to experience the opportunity to choose. And as such, we are able to hold different forms of consciousness, and we are able to travel to different places in our dream states and in our meditation practices. The only limitations that humans have are the ones that they put upon themselves. We're stuck on this planet simply because without us, there is no power or money. If we were doing our true purpose, there would be no need to control or to war or to withhold resources from populations. We already have enough. It is through the capitalistic intent, the materialistic intent, that these are withheld, that people are allowed to flounder. They're allowed to be addicted. They're allowed to suffer with no purpose. And suffering is a very powerful thing. The adversity, the chances, the choices, the opportunities, they all culminate into our life experience, whether it's good suffering or bad suffering. And as we start to open to these processes, it appears as though we get guidance. To me, it was expressed in number patterns, and now it's expressed in the entirety of my reality. Being present and being able to work with higher forms of consciousness is a difficult thing. For me, I had suppressed my emotional aspect simply because every time I expressed my emotions, it was not a pleasant experience. I would hurt somebody or I would get hurt. And so I closed it off. And once I started reopening it, it was a bag of snakes. Everything was a big deal. Everything was harder to deal with. It was harder to express. And I had to practice to find balance and balance material reality with the rest of it. Because every 25,960 years, we rotate around Sagittarius 1A. We change the density of information we come into contact with. So for the past 2,700 years, we've been in an iron age of materialism. And the Mayan, Gregorian, Davidian, Aztec, whatever ancient cultures, sacred calendar you want to invoke, the Vedics, the Komets, the King's List is an extension into the Vedic system, which is a total count of all the years the earth has existed. And the Judaic-Christian process is 25,960 years, which we just completed. If you do 360 years, which is the sacred calendar, the 5 days were considered unlucky and nobody ever did anything on them. We just watch John Wick until we're fat and ready to go back to work. It is interesting to see the total control that materialism has provided to the church and the state, because they've been able to obscure our history, to take things of value from us, and this podcast is intended for us to try to remember them. It is bare bones right now. I'm just starting, and I've contemplated a lot about this, and I believe, like I said in the beginning, my cosmic purpose is to open the consciousness of those around me, and through that, my own consciousness is opened. I essentially logicked my way into a spiritual awakening, and I believe that everybody could, given the right pattern. Because we are cast from a higher dimension, we carry a divine pattern that begs to be expressed. That's why the types of suffering we entertain, the types of attachments we hold, the expression of our free will is so vitally important, because through each conscious decision, every time we collapse the waveform of thought and decision, we are casting our die. We are making reality. And if that is occluded by darkness, then all that can be expressed is darkness. And that is where we find ourselves. As we change the density of information in the solar system, a curious thing has happened. There was initially one interstellar object that came into the solar system this year, and then 6 more comets entered the solar system, and by April of next year there will be 17 comets. This is a massive change in the energy and electromagnetic component of our solar system. It allows us to carry higher forms of consciousness more easily as the last golden age. If you listen to Christopher Bledsoe, he talks about the lady, and she gives him a date for when the Akashic record will be returned to us, our true history, our unedited history. And she said that when Regulus rises in the face of the Sphinx for the 3rd time, that we would be returned. We would be given a choice, that there would be times of pestilence and war and famine and lack. And that date is Easter next year. They found a massive structure under the Gizem Plateau that's been confirmed by even mainstream sources by now. They put guard posts at all the entrances. People were digging holes in their basement to get access to the catacombs in the Gizeh Plateau. Yet, we are going to be given access to it. There will be a lot of fighting about it, because it fundamentally changes what it means to be a human being. When we can get off this planet at will, when we can realize and remember the things that were taken from us. See, these people, they've corrupted themselves so deeply that they've forgotten they're divine. That God is not without, it is within. That every person has the opportunity to bring higher forms of consciousness into their body. They've turned the transfer of water and light from our mothers into the sacrament. It provides the same thing for Jesus, a direct lineage route, because the only people that are allowed to do the sacrament are the ones that are given that permission from another person that was given the permission all the way back. Except the transfer of water and light from our mothers contains the totality of our ancestral root. We can access information without needing to directly tie it to time. We can change our material reality in a very short amount of time once we start interacting with the higher forms of consciousness and start trying to work with our ancestors to solve problems that they weren't allowed to solve in their iteration, and try not to create any more problems for ourselves by inviting corruption into our body. See, it's okay to interact with things. It's okay to have materialistic desires and to fulfill them. It is the attachment that provides the friction that causes the issue. It is okay to watch the news. You should. You should know what is going on this planet. But if you let it inside you, it will distract you. It will bring you into a lower place. It will cause negatively biased free will expression, potentially. At a minimum, you're definitely going to be walking around fearful and scared. That's what it's designed to do. There's not much to fear. According to a lot of sources, death is but taking off a tight-fitting shoe. And the information contained in our soul and in our consciousness is expressed through the light contained within our bodies. The water acts as a hard drive. Hopefully one day I'll get to talk to Veda Austin on here, because she has a fundamental key of consciousness. For now, I'll refer you to her work. For us to step up on the next evolutionary rung, we have to start remembering that we are powerful, we are divine creatures, because in the presence of anesthesia, we have carbon nanotubules that are in all of our mitochondria. They absorb and re-emit 22 nanometer light. And in the presence of anesthesia, that process no longer takes place. That's how people come out of their body and watch their own surgery, or go and talk to God, or Pormandris, or Buddha, or whoever you want to refer to unity as. And through practice, you can come out of your own body. It seems to be one of the processes of remembering. It's a vibration. You start to remember your true name, the name that transcends each iteration, each time. And through that remembrance, you become kinder, more compassionate, wiser. You carry the totality of the iterations before you within yourself. You get access to information that transcends material reality. It seems as though many people have been able to do this. Only, like I said, 6 of them have been officially recognized, but they were used for materialistic intent. And nobody was intended to worship those people. And the others, they certainly weren't worshipped. They ended up being heretics. I'm thinking of Tesla or Galileo. These people were persecuted for waking up. And now there are so many waking up due to the change of information in our solar system and the information being expressed, which is really old, really new, and really exotic. Some children today in this generation are being born with these capabilities inherently. They don't have to remember anything. It's already there. Telepathy tapes, drug experiences. These things change our consciousness and open us to greater possibility. It is the hedonistic intent that gets us in trouble with changing our consciousness through molecular means. You should not be using any substance every day. You build dependency and you'll end up suffering for it. You gotta let it metabolize out, your dopamine return to baseline, and you have to manage your psychology. With these types of openings, it's very easy to become wrapped with ego and hubris, and that's where most people stop. See, Ram Dass always said, his brother was in a mental institution because he was so angry that Ram Dass wasn't as well. See, Ram Dass was a spiritual figure that came from the West and went to the East and came back to tell his story. And he was eccentric in the way that he dressed and his hair and his facial hair and things like this. And his brother was in a mental institution because he had his own awakening. However, he said that he was the only Christ. And Ram Dass could not deny that everybody was Christ and that they had the ability to hold higher forms of consciousness. See, to be anointed is to be weaponized. But if everybody does it, it becomes a tool of healing. It becomes a wealth of resources. It becomes heaven on earth. And then we get off the planet. They've taken money out of our system in order to develop the means to do it themselves, the materialists. But we'll recover it. The secrets are coming out. The information is changing. We are remembering. And we're going to choose love and compassion over anger and hatred. We're going to bring light to this world. There's a point that was postulated with each of these people, whether it's Jung or McKenna or they were aware that everybody was capable of this process, and that only due to material attachment and the constant closing off of their authentic self, they lose their inner authority, and most of them never remember. But now it is possible for everybody to remember. If we reach a tipping point, as each person comes into their authentic self and expresses a divine pattern within themselves, then it makes it easier for everybody else too. I initially thought I could become an attorney to change materialistic laws, but I realized that that may take too long, and that this window might close, and that we would suffer because of it. Edgar Casey spoke about rifts in the continents apocryphal texts speak of catastrophes past and catastrophes future. I believe it's only to the hubris of man that we fail in transcending each of these cycles. That too many people get stuck, and then it has to be rebalanced. That too much power and money are consolidated, and that it will take all of us. Right now there are trillions of souls on this planet because of the Akashic record we carry within us, and there can be a lot more. We can support 10, 15 billion people on this planet. If each of them have an Akashic record of their own, we have a wealth of spiritual resources here. But by taking out the older generations of our homes, by teaching people how to be materialistic from birth, by introducing the idea of sin, of anything other than unity, that's a dangerous weapon to point at people. And often the universe expresses your free will intent for you, whether you realize it or not. It is better to go through these processes consciously than unconsciously. You will have a lot of pain doing it unconsciously. And I don't want to preach to anybody. I don't want to tell anybody how to live their life. I just want to tell you that by expressing the divine pattern within myself, my life has truly been changed. It's been very difficult. Some of the things I've lost in my life I thought meant my entire material existence to me, but I see that I agreed to it. I agreed to this curriculum. I remember that I came here for a purpose, and we all have. And I hope that the Disillusioned can help people remember. I wonder if anybody has had a similar experience to my graduation ceremony. I would love to hear about yours. Most of the time I'm having these conversations while I'm driving. I am a rideshare driver, and I do Amazon Flex. I've done 20,000 rides with Uber, and I would say probably 2/3 of those I've been able to have a conversation similar to this. So I've worked on it. I've sought clarity. I've got my inner authority, and I have certitude that this is the direction we are headed in, that the energy and information in this solar system right now are giving us a cosmic choice. Whether we take advantage or we stay stuck in the material plane with lower forms of consciousness and continue to hurt each other and inflict upon each other. That's why we're kept out of the rest of the system. The non-human intelligence, aliens, angels, demons, whatever you want to call them, whatever they're manifesting to you as, they mourn for what we lost. We have ascended before. We had to ascend to get to the place we are now, but our lifespan was altered. Our ability to do our spiritual work has been changed over the last 2,700 years. You don't need a temple to worship. You worship in your temple. There are buildings and things like that that have sacred geometry in them that do help you with this process. Most of the megalithic structures are designed this way, and some of the cathedrals and modern churches. But you don't need that. You need this. You need to find balance with your body, your mind, and your spirit. Solve complex tasks with all three of them. Seek the proper information. It's hard to remove yourself from jealousy and envy if you are paying attention to others' material expression. That's why social media is such a useful tool. We will get the opportunity to make a cognitive decision. I hope it's not through ontological shock that we come to this decision, but I fear that the universe is putting us in a position to make a hard choice. And the reason everything is so chaotic and advancing so quickly is we have reached a singularity in our timeline. We have reached the point at which either the materialists are able to collapse the waveform in their direction and cast us into a dark net of centralized digital banking currencies, direct wallets with the Federal Reserve, and AGI or AI monitoring our thoughts and our physical expressions in order to assess whether we're worthy of participating in this materialist society. That is very dark. We will not be able to have these types of conversations anymore because if we do, they'll just take our money away. They'll make us sit at home. You can only buy bread and water. That. Or we can regain our seat amongst the rest of the cosmos. We can return to expressing the divine pattern of spreading our genetics throughout the galaxy, the solar system, and the universe at all, as multiple other civilizations are currently doing. The fundamental law of the universe is your free will. If you are making a decision, you have to clarify your consciousness first, or else it will come out flawed. And the more that you practice, the easier it gets. And there are people that have talked about this before me, but I find myself in a position that I need to create. I need to use my testimony to help, and that I volunteered to come here. I got if you're into astrology, I got a lot of 9s. And maybe that we can all ascend together, or maybe that we all can descend into darkness. I was disillusioned, and maybe one day I'll be enlightened. Now I'm somewhere in between, and I love that you're here. I love that I'm here, and I'm happy for my family, and can't wait to go on this awesome adventure with you and recover what we lost. It's a lot, and I don't have a lot of time, but I will make sure that the things I'm saying on here are true to the best representation of my reality and my understanding of the information that I process to get there. And I will do my best to source and to provide a trail of documentation for all the things that I'm discussing. I'm not entirely sure if I'm going to split this show into 2 separate categories. I've been told that a lot of people need a more basic understanding before they can get into the higher understanding. So I may do a exoteric version or a simpler version, and I may do a esoteric version. I may do a hybrid where I'm doing mostly exoteric for a while, and then I do a big esoteric episode. I haven't decided yet, and I haven't figured it out. But I can't wait to discover it with you guys, and I can't wait to go through this process, and I look forward to building a beautiful community, and let's bring heaven to earth. It's a beautiful day, and it's a beautiful year, and we're all here. So let's make the best of it. Let's choose love and compassion over hatred and suffering for nothing. Let's bring meaning to material reality, and I can't wait. It's a beautiful thing.